Have you ever felt that pull towards something more? A deeper sense of purpose that you can't quite put your finger on? Well, that's often how a spiritual awakening begins. Here at the Spiritual Seek, we've spent years exploring this journey, and we've actually created a kind of map to help navigate it. So let's dive in and see what this is all about.
So, what is a soul awakening, really? Think of it as this profound shift in how you see literally everything. It's not just a new hobby or a fleeting mood. It's when that deeper, more authentic part of you starts to peek through the automatic programming of your daily life. It's really where your psychology and your spirit finally meet. And that realization sparks a fundamental change in your entire perspective. See, the journey really kicks off when we stop just thinking about this idea and start actually feeling it in our bones, that we are spiritual beings having a temporary human experience. The awakening is that whole process of moving this from a cool concept in your head to a lived, breathing reality. Now, this journey, it can feel pretty disorienting at times, right? And that's exactly why we designed the Spiritual Awakening tests. It's not some final judgment. It's more like a compass, a tool to help you find your "you are here" marker on this incredible path of conscious evolution. Okay, so it's really important to get this straight. This is not one of those typical personality quizzes you find online. Instead of just looking at surface-level behaviors, our test is designed to explore consciousness itself. It's built to encourage genuine self-reflection, helping you sidestep that common trap of giving the answers you think you're supposed to give. The goal here is real insight, not just some simple label. The structure of the test is actually part of the experience. You've got 27 questions, and each one has 5 distinct response types, so it's incredibly nuanced. It takes about 20 minutes of real, dedicated, inward focus. It's not something you can just blaze through. That deliberate concentration is key. It forces you to move past your gut reactions to a much more considered, authentic answer. To give you a structured way of looking at your progress, the test evaluates 4 very specific areas of your inner world. We call these the 4 spheres of consciousness, and each one is basically a pillar of the awakening journey. These are the 4 spheres: detachment, disillusionment, inconvenience, and symptomatology. Sounds a bit academic, I know, but each one explores a different facet of how your perception shifts away from a purely material worldview as your awareness starts to expand. First step is detachment. And no, this isn't about giving up all your stuff and moving to a cave. It's about loosening your inner grip on things. It measures your ability to find your self-worth outside of your job or your bank account or your possessions, recognizing that true fulfillment comes from something way deeper, something permanent. The soul, it seeks the absolute. So as you begin to detach from the external world, your focus naturally turns inward. And this leads to disillusionment, which honestly can be a really challenging phase. Your ego, that part of you that craves certainty, it fights like crazy to hold on to all those familiar beliefs. But your awakening soul starts to gently, or not so gently, dismantle what's false, making room for your true self to finally come out. The third sphere is called inconvenience. And this one is a biggie. It's this counterintuitive realization that a life focused only on being comfortable rarely leads to deep spiritual growth. This sphere looks at whether you understand that challenges and, even suffering can be a powerful catalyst for a completely new vision of your life. And finally, we've got a sphere with a pretty clinical-sounding name, symptomatology. But really, this is just about the physical and mental signs that this whole process is actually happening. It assesses your experience with really common phenomena, things like a sudden buzzing in your ears, weird tingling sensations, or even a profound feeling that the world around you just isn't quite real. To give you a real feel for how we explore these ideas, let's look at a sample question. The car is an instrument of freedom. Do you agree? Now, on the surface, it seems like a simple question about, transportation, but the real inquiry here goes so much deeper. And here's where you see the magic. The question isn't really about cars at all. It's about your definition of freedom itself. Is freedom something external that you can buy or use, like a car? Or is it an internal state of being, something rooted in your own awareness, totally independent of any object? Your answer reveals so much about your current level of consciousness. So after you've thoughtfully answered all 27 of those questions, the test gives you a detailed analysis and it places you on a spectrum of awakening. This basically gives you a snapshot of where you are right now on your journey from the deepest slumber all the way to advanced awareness. At one end of the spectrum, we have the stage of deep sleep. Now, this state isn't a judgment, not at all, but it's often marked by a kind of numbness to deeper realities. There's a real comfort in conformism, following the path everyone else is on. It's a feeling of lightness that comes from being, often by unconscious choice, totally unaware of what's happening just beneath the surface of life. All right, moving along the spectrum, we find this really fascinating stage that we call drowsiness. This is when you start to get this growing perception that something is off. It's like a mental itch you just can't scratch. You start to feel a new insecurity about your old beliefs, but you're not quite ready to let them go. It's this constant tension between the need to rest in what's familiar and this undeniable pull to stay alert for something new. And then, at the far end of the spectrum, we find the stage of advanced awakening. Someone here is operating with powerful insight and a profound sense of personal integrity. They're disenchanted, and I don't mean that in a negative way. It's because the illusions of the material world just don't have a hold on them anymore. They see things with a rare and incredibly valuable clarity. And just to be super clear, this is not a common state. Our data shows that only about 6% of people who take the test actually score in this range. It really underscores that this is a dedicated path. It takes a lot of persistence and courage to get here. And this is perhaps the most important takeaway of all. Your result is not a final grade. It's not a label you're stuck with. It is a snapshot in time. It's a catalyst that's meant to spark further reflection because the journey of awakening is continuous. It's deeply personal, and it's entirely your own. Ultimately, what's the goal of all this? It's to transcend the mind's automatic pilot, all those unconscious habits, beliefs, and reactions that run our lives. It's about shifting from being a passenger in your own life to consciously and intentionally grabbing the steering wheel and assuming control of your existence. And so we'll leave you with this. We've shown you a map of the territory, the different stages, the challenges, and the potential destination. The only question left is the one you see right here. It's the one you have to ask yourself.